Alright guys, this time on Building the Exocet, I'm going to show you how I made my custom mounts for my front mount intercooler, as well as how I'm running my intercooler piping. First off, if you guys like my videos, please hit subscribe down below. I appreciate it. Now in this video, I'm basically going to show you guys how I made custom mounts for my front mount intercooler for my Exocet, as there are no kits for the mounts for an Exocet, as they're different from a Miata. So I fabricated my own mounts and powder coated them. I'm also going to show you how I'm running my intercooler piping. Okay, so it's basically going to break this video down into two parts. Part one will be the mounts that I made for my intercooler, and then part two is going to be how I'm running my intercooler charge piping and blow off valve and things like that. So let's get to the intercooler mounting. Okay, so first off, let's start with the intercooler itself. I got this off eBay. It is a EM USA or something brand. I don't know. Just a knockoff, nobody eBay brand. I'll put a description of the ad here so you guys can see. It's basically a 2.5 inch inlet, both at the top, intercooler. You know, the fins, as you can see in the camera, are pretty widely spaced. It's probably not great for cooling, but better than nothing. So the reason I chose this one is it filled up the front end very, very well. It's a lot bigger than I need, but it's the only one that I could find, and it was a very reasonable price. I think it was around $75 shipped. Okay, now, so you can see in the video here that there are basically 2 holes on the top and 2 mounting holes on the bottom here. And basically these, I needed to figure out a way on the Exocet here to mount this up. Now, a couple things I had to keep in mind while doing this was the height. I am doing the over-the-top routing, where basically my piping is going to be going over the top of the radiator. Yeah, I'm choosing to go over the top, so I need to make sure that basically my 90-degree elbows would clearance just at the right amount to go over here. So in doing that, I decided basically that the best starting point was on the top here, just to have these first mounts go vertically and mount the intercooler in about this position. Now, since there is no options for mounts, I basically was limited to having to manufacture them myself. I'm a mildly proficient welder and fabricator, so I was able to easily make those myself. This is my top mount here. It basically, as you can see in the picture, mounts right onto a couple rib nuts that I installed. I believe they're M6 or M8 rib nuts. I think M8. And basically what it is just a couple pieces of flat bar that I cut out for my spacing to space the radiator off the frame, and then I tied them together with this middle piece here. Then I went ahead and went through and powder coated the whole piece, matching the body color. Came out pretty nice. So this is my first mount here. This is my top mount. Next is my bottom mount. Now basically this piece was a little trickier to manufacture. As you can see here, it's got some bent metal. It's still 1/8 inch flat bar, 1/8 inch by 1 inch wide flat bar. Basically these mount onto this bottom rib nuts in this bottom bar here, and this mounts basically like this. And so this hangs down and then makes a 90 out toward the front. I basically just went ahead and made each of these 2 side mounts, put them on there, then tack welded this middle bar to make it into a single rigid piece. Okay, so that's how the mounts were made. Now let's go ahead and get the mounts and the intercooler on the car. I'll show you how it all bolts together. Okay, so that's the intercooler on now with the custom mounts I made. I'll give you guys a little video shot of what it looks like on the car and how the mounts mount up, just to give you guys a better idea of what's going on there. But now, since we got the intercooler done, let's go ahead and let's move on to the intercooler piping. All right, so now on to the intercooler piping. First off, yes, I am wearing different clothes. It's actually about 2 months later. I completely forgot I was making this video and never shot the video of the intercooler piping. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take you guys through all the intercooler piping, the parts I use, things like that. I'll put some splash shots up on the screen to basically go over the parts that I used. Pretty much everything was eBay purchased, and I'll just kind of show you what I used and where you can purchase it. Okay, so basically onto the intercooler piping here. You can see my over-the-top setup. I chose this setup versus going kind of, down and underneath and here in the car and going, from a side port on the lower part of the intercooler and then up and under as a lot of Miatas do. Basically, the reason I chose that is this is a lot shorter routing for the car. The one inefficiency is this radiator I bought. It is a Yonaka Motorsports radiator. I would not buy this again because of this raised area in the radiator. It basically limits you to not be able to go straight to the throttle body with this pipe. So it does extend quite a bit of tubing here, as well as over here. So the one limitation I had is I do have my hood mounts here and my other hood mount over here. These protrude up above the radiator, and my radiator already is mounted too high. Not by choice, but rather these small bolts in the side to mount the radiator. I need to get those above the frame rail here, and I could not do that if I had it any lower. I wouldn't be able to ever remove the radiator because I couldn't get the bolt out, nonetheless actually ever get it in. So I had my this radiator mounted as low as I possibly could, but it's not real efficient for this Exocet installation. Basically what my installation consists of here is there's a 90-degree elbow, 90-degree elbow, and a 90-degree 2.5 inch to 2 inch reducer here to go to the 2-inch compressor inlet. So basically 3 90s here, one of those being a 2.5 to 2 inch reducer. And then I have basically a 90-degree elbow here, a 180-degree turn, and then a 90-degree here. And this basically allows me to get these bends in shape. It also does allow the stock hood to fit over it. Now you do have to push the stock hood down quite a bit and almost smash these pipes down a little bit in order to basically get the hood on, and I have these hood pins here adjust up as high as I possibly can right now. So it's a very, very tight fit, but it does work. Basically all these were purchased off eBay. They came with hose clamps. I will post right here the auctions that I used for those hose clamps and these 4-ply silicone couplers. This pipe here is an aluminum piece that I actually cut myself, and then I used a tool to basically make some is it barbed ends, or I can't remember what the term is, but basically the barb along the pipe here to make it so that under boost the coupler will not slip off of the pipe. So I made this tube myself, this tube myself. This here actually came with my blow-off valve. This is an eBay blow-off valve, and it works pretty well. It has a nice sound. I think it's a Turbo XS knockoff, if I remember right. Works pretty good. I have had zero issues with it. At first I had a little bit of compressor surge issues. It wasn't fully venting all the air out, so I just basically loosened the adjuster on it, and now it sounds good and works and operates just fine. So basically I had to do some cutting of these couplers and test fitting as I was putting it all together, but I think everything turned out not gorgeous, but fairly decent. A couple things that I will point out here is in this blow-off valve, it comes with a, it's an aluminum pipe with a flange for the blow-off valve here, but basically with this blow-off valve, I used this pipe to have my intake air temperature sensor. I bored this out and then tapped this hole. It actually was the same drill bit and tap I used for my oil pan fitting, for my 10AN oil pan fitting. So that's where I get my intake air temperature for my Megasquirt. And then also down here underneath this pipe, I have my idle air control valve pipe. I have an NA style throttle body, so I still got to use that stupid ugly pipe for that. But basically this here routes through a radiator hose, and it just basically goes down, under, and over to the idle air control valve. But basically that's my setup for the intercooler piping on my Exocet. Alright guys, well I hope that helps you out to figure out your Exocet intercooler piping. I really would recommend going over the top with your piping. It's a much less complex as well as a much shorter route for your piping. Even though it isn't pretty and it does have some hood fitment issues, you can make it work even if you have a higher mounted radiator such as I do. So if you like my videos, please hit subscribe down below and the like button. I appreciate it. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.